Welcome to Dhobi Ghat. We've had a rather interesting fortnight after August 20th when there was a secret file that Director Subodh Saxena received at Sanchar Bhavan, which he signed, which meant that 39 YouTube videos were blocked, 10 Facebook pages, 21 specific web pages, including mainstream news reports, and 16 Twitter accounts. This included 2 journalists and one rather harmless software entrepreneur, Paranjpe. Since then, there have been incidents where on the 22nd, 23rd, where first the government denied that they were blocking them. Then when a letter was circulated which proved that it was being done, then they admitted it, and the Home Ministry was sending reporters to the Telecom Ministry and vice versa. So there was no clarity in what happened. This was done rather arbitrarily through the internet service providers who were told, just do this. So we have with us Vinod Mehta, who's the editorial chairman of Outlook magazine, Kanchan Gupta, who has just started a wonderful website, niticentral.com, Dipankar Gupta, who was a professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University. He's a sociologist and has written really important books, especially Mistaken Modernity, which I think every young person should read. And Manish Tiwari, who I think has the most difficult job in the world today. He's the spokesperson of the Congress Party. Welcome, all of you. Vinod, you wrote a small paragraph in Outlook saying that I abhor censorship, overt or covert, but, however, then you said, I'd support any measure, including censorship, to stop platforms like Facebook and Twitter from being used to spread terror. The misuse of the social media is hardly a secret. It has been left untouched in the interest of free speech. However, it can't be allowed to challenge the fundamental rights of the citizen. And then we go to Kanchan, who has written, Indira Gandhi tried to tame the press during the emergency. 14 years later, Rajiv Gandhi tried it again with the press bill, which he had to scrap because of the reaction. And now we're facing something like 358 requests of removal of pages from Google, 39 pertaining to defamation, 20 to privacy, 14 to impersonation, and the rest of it. Kanchan is one journalist, Shiv Arur of Headlines Today was the other one. Kanchan was the one who was blocked. And there are other serious developments subsequently. So, Kanchan, what do you think, one, of their blocking of your Twitter handle, and then what is happening now? As you walked in, you were telling us.
Well, I mean, this is a point which I've made again and again, that I find the whole thing very silly, and it's very difficult to respond to something which is so frightfully stupid. You can't really block information flow on the internet the way you could have blocked some 25, 30 years ago when you only had newspapers and Doordarshan. Do you
think there's a problem of the politicians, including the judiciary? For example, the Karnataka Judge Ranganathan actually gave an order saying that the media should stop the sensationalism and remove breaking news and flash news, which seems to me really somebody who's out of touch. Do you think that there is a huge alienation between the public, the people, and the government today? Is that one of the problems?
There is an alienation. There is an alienation. You know, I have received a notice from the government, a very politely worded notice though, but and it has been sent or signed by a very senior person.
A minister?
No, not a minister, a very senior bureaucrat. It's just gobbledygook.
Is it from this, from the Telecom Ministry or the Home Ministry?
The Telecom Ministry. Okay. I mean, asking me to appear before a committee on Monday afternoon. But, you know, this point about disconnect, I mean, they really don't even know the medium they are dealing with. And it is so patently clear from the letter which has been sent out. Are they trying to block content? Are they trying to block URLs? Are they trying to block websites? Are they trying to block handles?
Are they trying to teach you a lesson?
Or are they just trying to teach you a lesson? So the absence of clarity on these issues also shows that people who are tasked with this responsibility are just clueless about what they're supposed to do.
Manish, do you think that this is a few people who are misguided, or is there a general policy in the government that a decision has been taken that this should be done?
See, let's understand things in a bit of a perspective. The Constitution of India very clearly says that you have the right of freedom of speech and expression. But those rights,
Jawaharlal Nehru fixed that.
Those rights are circumscribed by what the state says, that the ability to be able to impose reasonable restrictions. Coming to the internet, the Information Technology Act, I think if I recall correctly, Section 69A, says that government can impose restrictions with regard to what is disseminated on the net. Essentially, if it fulfills three conditions. One, it impairs your relations with another state. Number two, it impacts the security and the stability of the state. And number three, if it spreads disaffection, among citizens at large. So therefore,
but Kanchan is obviously not guilty of that.
So therefore, I'm coming to that. So therefore, the legal mandate is very, very clearly circumscribed. You can only block if somebody falls within these three categories. Now, under what circumstances did Kanchan end up getting blocked? I think it is incumbent upon the government to inform him. And that is a right which he has, that if the government has chosen to block his Twitter handle or to block his URL...
His notice is even more frightening.
That's exactly
to
what...
appear before a committee smacks of the emergency.
That's exactly what I'm saying, that, well, I don't think that a notice to appear before a committee, really is something which is outside the pale of the law. But what is objectionable, according to what Kanchan was just relating to us, is that the notice does not even specify as to what does he have to appear for.
And what is it to answer?
Yeah, that's right. So therefore, I think, that sort of an ambiguity, sends out a wrong message, and that is something which government needs to deal with, because you cannot have this kind of ambiguity that you are asking somebody to answer for something which he does not know as to what he's supposed to answer for. So
I think they're treating the trial by Kafka as a Bible rather than as a warning.
I don't think that they're treating trial by Kafka as a Bible or something. I think I agree with Kanchan that apparently the guys who've been tasked to deal with this possibly do not understand the nature of the beast. But having said that, I think if you widen the context and take it beyond Kanchan, the right to free speech does not include the right to hate speech. And anything, which has the possibility of triggering off the kind of events which you saw in Bangalore, in Hyderabad. And what is really frightening is that somebody seems to have done their homework quite well, because, you and I did not get those messages. But possibly people who came from the Northeast, they were specifically targeted. This means that somebody analyzed, the entire call records of the telecom companies and knew as to who were the people that they would selectively target. So therefore, I think, there's a larger ambit which really needs to be gone into.
Manish, there is in Assam...
There are separate issues,
okay.
The thing about SMSing or targeted SMSing is one issue. That's a law and order issue, really. This is something which is amazing, because I still hold that, it is frightfully stupid. I mean, and I keep on repeating these two words, because I don't think there was any grand thinking behind it. I don't think there was any meticulous investigation behind it. Otherwise, how do you explain...
Milind Deora being blocked?
Yeah, that apart, somebody like Paranjape, and the poor chap is shattered. I mean, he's
Kanchan, I completely take
Manish,
your point. You see, I completely take your point, but
Manish,
eventually, there may be an aberration, which may have taken place, and if it has happened, it needs to be dealt with more severely. I'm not at all defending that. But all that I'm trying to say is that if you have hate images being disseminated, images which are morphed, images which are, not even real, and the intent is to try and spread disaffection, to try and spread communal hatred, to inflame passions, that is something which has to be dealt with.
Vinod, do you think there was a different way of handling this? If somebody puts a few morphed images, which the government, supposing we have this scenario, the government puts it on television and says, do not, on Doordarshan, which has the largest reach, even more than any telephones or cell phones. This is not to be believed. It is wrong. It is wrong information. Wouldn't that, and the Prime Minister goes on television, speaks to the nation and says, do not leave your places, this is not true. Isn't that a better way of handling
Madhu, I
it than this?
vehemently oppose censorship, and I vehemently oppose what has been done to Kanchan. I was making a very limited point and saying that the reports were coming that 500,000 people, the biggest probably exodus since partition, was going to probably happen because these messages, morphed, fabricated, were having a very, very bad kind of overall impact. And I do not want the social media to be touched in any way. I think that it's free. I think it's one of the best things that's happened. All I was saying in those 24 hours, because we were fighting against time, because every day 300,000 people, 400,000 people, violence in Bombay, everything was happening. So we must find a way to make sure that this does not happen.
But
so,
they would just create new Facebook pages or handles.
Now,
if you block
Madhu,
that, the way to have handled it is to deal with our public and say,
that now,
our people
when we
that
have
don't
the time, maybe we
this.
would do it much better the next time around. But at that limited 24, 36-hour window, when every second was important and we were going to be engulfed by a social explosion in the country. And my limited point was that must stop. Social media has 99% very good impact and is not to be done. But this particular aspect of this, I think, needs more debate.
Dipankar,
and I'm sure they themselves would like more debate as to how this kind of thing can be stopped.
So
but what has happened to Kanchan at all? I mean, what is Kanchan is saying, it's abominable. I'm a journalist. How would I agree on censorship? It's a very limited point.
But so far, they haven't shown any inclination to have any discussions. They're being very arbitrary.
The government may have used this opportunity to overkill.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That this was an opportunity for them to use Assam, which was a trouble spot anyway. To use that one or two images
I don't support.
Creating the problem.
What was happening internally in Assam was quite different to what was happening in House.
No, but to pin it all on images is when all these other people were at work, as I mentioned.
Well, that's what they were saying. I mean, that's what everybody was saying, that why are you going back to Assam or why are you going back to Manipur? Because they would say we are getting SMSs, we are getting these images of, and people are saying that we will take retribution against you if you don't go back.
Dipankar, in 2011, after the riots in the United Kingdom, they formed a panel to examine how social media should be handled and whether it should be controlled or not. And this report, which was very well received, actually said that although there was some social media was used to aggravate the problem, however, silencing it would mean that the viral silence would be more dangerous than the viral noise. So how does this affect us as a people, as a society, that one, as journalists and also as regular people who feel that they have to be careful in what they say? And it makes me really nervous to think that Kanchan gets a letter, says, appear before a committee. That's beyond Kafkaesque. It's really frightening. Maybe nothing will happen, but it's a warning. It's a warning to him. Behave yourself. So how do you think these moves affect us?
Well, you see, there is no justification for ham-handed censorship, of course. At the same time, as has been said often enough in this program, that there is a freedom to expression, a freedom to assemble. That's a general rule, but there are very special provisions when there are exceptions to the rule. Now, we should not let the exceptions eat up the general rule. That is very important. And in balance, freedom of expression is vastly more preferable than choking all the avenues to expression and free thought. And that usually happens when people at the top are afraid of their own position. It never happens to a confident government. It never happens to a confident polity. It happens to an authority that is unsure of itself. Because it's unsure of itself, it uses methods which are far disproportionate to the problem at hand. One might say they use a sledgehammer to kill a fly. But and the reason why all of these hate messages gain some traction is because of the record of previous governments over the years. Minorities have always felt unsure of themselves. And when things go wrong, they tend to, burrow themselves into a hole or run away from the scene. I remember some time back when the Ayodhya judgment was pending, a large number of Muslims took refuge in JNU campus from God knows where, because they thought this was one place where they'd be safe. Now, if this image, this feeling is widely prevalent, that we will not be protected should things go against us, then any little thing, will set off all kinds of panic amongst a designated population. So I think that, first of all, we must ask ourselves the question, why was this panic created? And I think the panic is created for two major reasons. One, which you've mentioned just now, and that is...
Are you talking about the panic of the images or the panic the government had?
The Northeast people who ran away
They
from...
panicked.
They
okay.
panicked.
Because I see the government's panic also
well,
like,
I think the government didn't quite
Twitter.
panic. The government did not do what it should have done. I think that is the point you were making, which I endorse. And basically what I mean that if you're going to muzzle up the press, the viral silence you mentioned, a lot of rumors get currency when there isn't a freedom of expression. And that is much more dangerous than whatever little that goes wrong with excessive freedom of information. And therefore, I think muzzling the press, muzzling free expression, lets loose rumors of a terrible
in the
kind.
emergency.
Yeah, and second, if you're aware of this, and if you see this happening around, then you should ask yourself as a government, why is it that people reacted the way they did? I think that is the most important question. I can get a number of messages. You can get a number of messages from unknown sources. I wouldn't panic and leave Delhi because I don't see myself as a persecuted minority by any stretch of imagination. But when people do, they react in ways which are actually
but
quite...
But do you see that as a...
Would it be fair, just taking off from where you... this is
One last point, that is when the exceptions of the rule are actually very parsimonious in character. You can't just, make a blanket statement like the kind of statement you received. Exceptions of the rule are always in the Constitution too. And this was the argument as made by the framers of the Constitution. Always be careful, exceptions of the rule should not gobble up the rule. And when you have exceptions of the rule, they should be stated in a very parsimonious fashion. And that is why I believe that a code of conduct should list out, like the 10 Commandments, very parsimoniously what cannot be done, not what you should do. And when you have a state of this kind, when people are not sure about how to handle a population, how to handle the polity itself, they tend to tell you what you should do, like this particular person in the press, you were saying, you should not have flash news, you should not have breaking news. I think that's a wrong way of going about it. What you should have indeed are commandments, maybe not more than 10, perhaps even less, telling you quite clearly, unambiguously, what you cannot do, and it holds to everybody. From top to bottom, holds for everybody, only then it works.
In fact, say,
otherwise,
for example, you're covering the Mumbai siege. You do not say, do not show this. In fact, you can say, you can delay it by 12 hours, and even then the images should be in a certain way. So you are given instructions on how to do it, rather than just say, don't show it at all. Because in some sense, information is also important to protect people, to protect themselves.
Just ask yourself the question. When the Kargil war happened, there was hardly any rumors because there was so much information about it. Think of 65 and 62. There's so many rumors around.
But in Kargil,
that man is an agent, that fellow has a transmitter, etc., etc. So that kind of rumors that we had, every Chinese was suspect, every person who looked different from us was suspect. Now, in Kargil, I observed this, and I was very pleased to note.
Because of the free flow of information.
Exactly.
But also what happened, because of the free flow of information, journalists were censoring themselves out of a sense of loyalty, out of a sense of their patriotism. I remember in the cafeteria in Kargil, there were big fights. Now we have something called... But nobody showed stuff, which we all saw.
Now we have something called National Broadcast Association, whatever, where the journalists are self-censoring. Before the government censors you, you self-censor, and I'm part of that organization. But you see, the rule there is very simple. You should just be very careful about what you think you should not do. And I feel,
that's why the debate should be very narrow. What do we do in this very, very exceptional
Extreme,
situation. Yeah. What should we do, and what is the more? How do we quickly? Because reaction time is, you don't have days and days. But I think the debate should move away from any talk of censorship of the
as a general rule,
to this very narrow focus.
The problem is that this government has, in many different forms, tried to bring in control of the media, whether it's from Meenakshi Natarajan,
that they don't get away with
Parliament.
This debate. I see all the debates, very large blanket terms being used, regulate social media, etc. I think those debates are actually don't do us any good. We should say, all of us, that social media is a very good thing, that it should be strengthened, and it is getting people together. But in this specific sort of situation, what do you do? And we must take the consent of the social media, get them involved in this. I'm quite sure that the people who run platforms like this would themselves would not like to be accused of causing this kind of mayhem.
Professor Dipankar Gupta actually raised a very important point. And this is something which somehow got buried, although some of us have tried to raise it. The reason which is being given, this bhagdod, basically, you have to leave, you have to get out. Why is it that people panicked? I am personally convinced, and people are welcome to disagree with me, I am personally convinced they did not panic only because of some SMSs or because of social media or because of my Twitter handle or whatever, but because there is diminishing faith in authority of the state. There is declining trust in the state, that the state shall step forward to save me, to protect me. And when that happens, this is a very natural fallout. Today you are saying it happened for Northeasterners. Tomorrow it could be Bengalis. Third day it could be Punjabis.
Well, that's one thing perhaps Manish and Dipankar can answer.
Just one more point. Yeah. Look at this. There's this person who's, I think, a painful pimple on the body politic, as it were, Raj Thakare. He says the most incendiary things and nothing happens to him, which is why a person who is a minority, who might be attacked at some point, says that, I'm always vulnerable. There are people like this that are roaming around and they can get away what they do and nothing happens to them. In fact, the more egregious they are, the greater popularity they get and the greater fear, it seems, apparently not true though, that they strike at the government. So their image goes up.
But isn't it also
why can't the social...
Instead of blaming the social media, isn't it also the other way around, that it is actually a lack of information? It's a lack of information.
I don't think the social
media
is at all responsible for this. I think even if some things went wrong, in balance, social media has to be kept going. But there are certain exceptions, and the exceptions rules should be followed, and there are strict rules regarding that. Observe those strict rules, keep them within confines, but to do that, you have to be an efficient government. If you're not efficient, you use a sledgehammer.
Well, that's another idea that I want to ask both of you, which is that whenever, in fact, this government has the longest history of banning films, banning books, banning even people from appearing. I think the BJP has a rather more clever way of doing it. They don't officially ban a film. They'll send the goons, go burn that movie hall down. I mean, this might be defamatory, so I will couch it in saying I heard. But the fact of the matter is, whenever something is removed, that this film cannot be seen because it can be inflammatory. I have been through the censor board when I used to do News Track, and they banned the Ayodhya tape, a tape that then Justice Lenton passed an order saying not only should this be allowed, it should be seen by every citizen of India, whereas the censor board had said it is inflammatory. So there is a presumption that we as educated people can handle it, but the uneducated mass can't, and that I think smacks of great arrogance, because there is great wisdom in the mass if you trust them, and if you allow an open system where they can see any film, read any book, and you will see that they will not react except for political plants who will deliberately do so. So I think there is a problem here that we are playing big brother for the last 65 years, even before the British left. And there has been an issue that this arrogance, that we can't do this because it'll flare up. But the point is that many things have happened and they don't flare up. They just, people can watch it, pass an opinion and carry on. So why is there this sort of fear that we're living in from the 50s or from the British time that we have to control? It's almost like the British banning pamphlets, banning newspapers. Why have we carried that history forward, Manish? You're a liberal man in your life, intellectually. How does it feel to have to be listening to all this?
No, Madhu, I think Professor Dipankar Gupta made a very fair point when he said that the exceptions that we've carved out from the civil liberties that we have all given to ourselves, they need to be very rigorously policed. And so therefore, if there is a violation, that violation has to be identified, within that given parameter and dealt with. Because I don't think that anybody makes out a case that there should be, a complete freedom of speech and expression, because then we'll go into areas like child pornography and stuff like that, which I don't think,
which I
don't think is something we should be allowing into the mainstream. I mean, if it is there, there is possibly a strong case of dealing with it. But
but there are child blocks. There are all kinds of. One second, your government has blocked things like Savita Bhabhi. Your government has not blocked things like child pornography. Your government has blocked political sites who disagree on or criticize the government.
Madhu,
but it has not. And then the list of things. Now we sign suddenly from the side anti-privacy. A privacy law is being smuggled in without people noticing. That you will go to jail and pay a fine for 5 crores if you encroach on somebody's privacy. These are very frightening things.
Well, the right to privacy has been built into the right to life by the Supreme Court, but not by the government.
Kanchan, please.
No, Manish, I find that freedom of speech comes up for debate. I have found people repeatedly raise this thing about, if you allow freedom of speech without any limitations, you will have child pornography. Now, that is, look, no civilized society tolerates child pornography. It is, to my mind, a tragedy that our First Amendment curbs freedom of speech. And the other largest democracy in the world, we consider that there are 2 large democracies in the world. Their First Amendment actually protects freedom of speech.
At all costs.
At all costs. Well, let me complete. But you don't have child pornography legitimized or legalized or shown widely in America. So why link up the two? See, child pornography, deal with it. I mean, nobody endorses it. And free speech, Manish, and
you haven't done anything about child pornography.
We are on 2 different sides. But
you haven't done anything about pornography.
For your freedom of speech.
Kanchan, eventually, Article 19 and the exceptions that have been carved out of it, have been, we have been legislated till death in our courts from 1952 onwards, and that law is settled. Now, for example, for example, if you want to overturn it, you can go and challenge it and say that the First Amendment is ultra vires of the Constitution of India, and therefore it should be struck down, and we should have, the right to unfettered and unregulated speech. I mean, that's a fair point you make, but till the time those caveats hold, you have to operate within those caveats. And the second point that I was trying to make is because what Professor Dipankar Gupta said about self-regulation. I'm absolutely a votary of self-regulation. I believe in self-regulation. But then, if you go to the Supreme Court's judgment in the Kasab case, and what they had to say about the coverage of the event by the electronic media.
That was your government's fault for not putting in guidelines.
No, it's not a question of my...
It was a new situation.
It's not a question of my government.
And the media's learned from it.
No, it's not a question of my government
so
or your
has
government.
You.
No, it's not.
So have you.
No, it's not a question of my government or their government. Question is, what if self-regulation is violated? Suppose self-regulation is not implemented. Under those circumstances, what is the responsibility of the state? Does the state have a responsibility or not?
What if controls are misused?
So, if controls are abused, then obviously there's punishment prescribed for it.
No.
If he is being asked to appear before a committee?
Malicious prosecution. Malicious prosecution is a right that
he's being harassed
When
already.
has the state ever been punished in our country?
that is precisely the reason
When
why.
has the state ever been
That is
punished in
precisely
that?
the reason why that people like you need to go to court so that the law of tort gets
He has
amplified.
nothing better to do.
No, the law of torts gets amplified, and the state is subject to exemplary damages because the state will only learn once it gets
Manish,
subject to
that means
exemplary
that we are
damages.
fighting a battle of ideas, really, meaning that this idea of the state versus the public. What you're basically saying is what Brecht, that you're saying that we need to elect a new people.
I'm not saying we need to elect a new people. I think there is constant tension between where it ends and where people start, and therefore
we have to be
people.
sensible about. I mean, we have to be pragmatic also. Kanchan's point is a larger point of freedom of speech. We are looking here at how do we protect these people from willful misuse of information, and that purpose of that information is not nebulous. They are
We are also looking at a government who's used those people to block him.
No, Madhu, that's not
happened.
the point. Nobody wants to block him.
They have
Nobody
used
wants to.
exactly
We
the
just want to
protection
make
of
sure
those
that hate
people.
messages-
They have gotten in.
Kanchan doesn't spread hate messages.
No, but no, this is a bit like the army getting enough material during the Kargil war, which they needed to fight in the East. This was their opportunity and they grabbed it. The government grabbed it to use this Assam problem can we now
Control
just...
of the social media should not be confused with freedom of speech. These are two separate issues.
But the government has done it.
Vinod has a point. Government has, as I said, it's been very stupid in making a khichdi out of 3 different strands. The SMS saying...
Give me 2-3 points which sort of sums up the problem and the solution.
See, you're being like Karan Thapar.
No.
I will kill you if you say I'm like Karan Thapar. And I don't wear bow ties.
I think government really needs to educate itself. I mean, and I don't mean, by government, I don't mean the UPA or the NDA, any government. Any authority needs to educate itself about new technology. Just as it needs to be aware about the potential of mischief, the mischief potential of new technology, it should also fully exploit the potential of using that technology to block mischief in a different manner. I wish the Home Minister, the other ministers had directly participated in social media to say, look, we are here, this is wrong, this is not right, what is being said is wrong, believe us, have faith in us.
It's also a case of us versus them, because they look at the social media as them and we are us.
Social media,
but if they were in it, they would say,
no,
they
but
would
it's
be
very strange. You see, I don't really
media.
understand why. A government gets in touch with newspapers, with news channels, sources are things are attributed to sources, saying that, please put this out here, this is to be stopped, this is, this shouldn't happen, this should be, this mischief should be nipped in the bud. Then why not, if you're reaching out to traditional media, why can't you reach out to social media also?
Manish?
Well, I think you make a fair point. After all, government has to be present across all media platforms in order to see that its word also gets out. I think that's a fair point, So therefore, you cannot run away from a medium which is already in place and which is being used by millions of people.
Do you agree that there is an area in the government who don't understand the media at all?
Well, I think there are large parts of the Indian state. And when I talk about the Indian state, I go across the board, which really do not understand
I'm talking about the government.
I'm telling you, the government. When you talk about government, you talk about state governments also. You talk about other, instrumentalities and authorities.
Decisions.
So that's exactly what I'm trying to say is that possibly there is a need to, if at all there is a case for regulation, it has to be done with a lot more sophistication, a lot more refinement,
Well,
and a
Dipankar is
better
an
understanding.
ex-professor. Maybe he can hold workshops for your government to educate them.
Absolutely, we'll be more than happy to listen to
Let me say
him.
this much, that when you're talking about exceptions, I think we should go back to exceptions, because the rule cannot be touched. There's only exceptions we have to pay attention to. Exception has drawn attention, solved the problem, finished. And I think that this tendency to overlook the exception is primarily because we are inefficient. It's not because of anything else. And inefficiency arises also, amongst other things, because we do not give dignity to our citizens and we do not trust our lower officials. Once these two things are taken care of,
I don't think we trust anybody, because
I'm just saying that,
if you look at the progression of events as they happen from the 20th
if you are
onwards,
efficient,
it's a jumble.
If you're efficient, then you can handle these things very efficiently. You don't have to use the sledgehammer. For example, the example you gave is exactly that. Why do ministers and others have to have such a retinue of secret or of security people? If you're efficient organizations, you can do with very few people. But you have so many because you're not efficient. And because they're not efficient, to overdo it. Likewise, in this case, because they cannot control what is happening, which is a bad thing that happened, they overdid it because they're not efficient. I think the workshop should not be about the Constitution, everybody knows it backwards. The workshop should be about efficiency. And once they're efficient, they'll be able to do things correctly. And nobody really bothers about efficiency, which is why we can say quite calmly, they don't know the media, they're not aware about Twitter, etc., etc. But the root cause is inefficiency. Attack that. Number one.
No, but isn't there an element of political will?
Yeah, well, it comes
because
to
if
will.
you decide that I'm not going to allow any disruption for this film being shown or this book being published.
You see, the point is very often I've studied several riots at close quarters firsthand, and I've found that people don't go out and kill other people with blunt instruments or sharp instruments because anger is boiling over. It happens when they feel that they have administrative support. It never happens on its own. I might hate my neighbor, but for me to go out and kill is a totally different proposition. And all the three cases I've studied, and some of them you know very well, could not have happened in spite of all the hate had not there been explicit understanding that we will not get hurt. So those who kill for a cause are not the same people who die for a cause.
I just want to say that please get Kanchan back on Twitter as soon. The nation needs Kanchan on Twitter.
More than anything else,
We all endorse that.
more than anything else, I think that you should watch very closely what happens on Monday afternoon after Kanchan has to appear before this committee or office to explain himself. I think this is radically unacceptable to even allow this to happen. I don't know why it's happening. It smacks of the emergency. I don't know which direction this government is going in.
Can you get a TV channel to cover it?
Yes, we'll do it live. We'll put a camera on his head or here. And I think, yes, entirely, we do live TV with their permission and then see how it changes. I think it's very important for us to address these issues. More importantly, to understand that the government could understand that you could use the social media to communicate rather than to close things down. Thank you very much.